This week's Four Questions Journalist Spotlight is brought to you by Leff's Atlanta Media, Atlanta's best journalist database. Subscribe at leffsatlantamedia.com.
Welcome to another edition of our Four Questions Journalist Spotlight. We are talking today with Rashad Richey. Good afternoon, Rashad. Thanks for joining us.
What's going on, brother? How you doing, man?
I am good. I'm looking at a beautiful Friday afternoon right now.
Yes.
And I think I couldn't think of a better way to end the day than having a little chat with you, and then I can enjoy the sunshine before it gets cold tomorrow.
There you go, man. Same here.
Well, let's jump right in. So what I want to do is just talk a little bit about your background, and I've got a list of all the things that you are doing. So I'm sure sleep is not high on your list of things you're able to do lately. But give me a little background about Rashad and your list of journalism jobs right now.
Oh, man. So my background is actually political and educational. I worked as the Democratic State Party director and chief strategist years ago, as well as their lobbyist. And I worked as a political consultant over the span of about 15 years. I've also operated as a professor. I'm currently a university professor and a department chair at Beulah Heights University, and I lecture at multiple colleges throughout the state. But in journalism, all right. So Mitch, you know, I hope I don't miss something. Okay.
Yeah, well, I have a list of 5 things. So let's see.
All right.
Let's see if there's more than 5.
Okay.
So go.
I'm the editor at large for Rolling Out, which is a multimedia company. Rolling Out is also the largest free print urban media company in the United States. We have a monthly readership of 2.8 million and a combined social media following of about 400,000 plus. I'm on WAOK, News and Talk 1380. WAOK, I host the Rashad Richey Morning Show. And that morning show is award-winning. We won the AJC poll for Best Talk Radio Personality in Atlanta, and the Atlanta Business Journal poll for Most Trusted Voice in Atlanta. I'm also the political and social commentator for the People Station B103, which is the largest urban station in the country. Beyond that, I work as the political analyst for CBS 46 News and also Peachtree TV. And I host my own show called Dr. Rashad Richey Indisputable on the TYT network. That's the Young Turks, the largest progressive online news source in the world. And I host that show on Mondays, and I fill in and do guest co-hosting on the main show, The Young Turks. I will be there today, actually, co-hosting on the Young Turks main show. And I do political commentary for MSNBC.
Oh, I missed one. All right, so I missed that one. MSNBC. All right, MSNBC. I put that on my list here. All right, I got 5 out of 6. So that's pretty good, right?
That's great, actually. I forget 2 or 3 every now and then, so it's all good, man.
That's great. That's great. So let's see. So you've been at. I guess I hear you mostly. I hear you on 46 and AOK. I guess is where I kind of see and hear you the most. But obviously, the MSNBC stuff probably gets picked up in other places too. So you get that pickup too. Are there certain topics that, and this is a broad question, are there certain topics that you really want to be focusing on right now?
You know, the topics I typically focus on have to do with politics and social issues. I'm a big policy guy. My doctoral degree is a policy-related degree. I've always believed, Mitch, that policy is a social contract between the community and the government. And when you're in the business of fair treatment for people in this country, you must also be in the business of policy on some level. That goes from feeding the hungry to what our K through 12 education looks like. Policy is involved in all of that. And as a policy individual, those are mainly the items I talk about most in my radio program, TV program.
Yeah, and there's no shortage of important topics.
Yeah.
Gosh, certainly in the last year and before, obviously, but no shortage of what are we going to talk about today, kind of thing. Right?
It's no shortage on content, brother. I mean, it's like content heaven right now, but it's been content heaven really for like 4 years plus.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you look at it and, you yearn for those days where you walked into the newsroom and said, I wonder what's going to be interesting today. And now you're like, it's just something huge every day. You and I were just talking a few minutes ago, and when by the time this airs, it'll be a little bit in the past, but Major League Baseball pulling the AllStar game from Atlanta, which is not entirely unsurprising, but still a big hit politically, reputationally, economically, socially.
Yep.
For Metro Atlanta,
and it showed you the direct connection between policy, consumers, and business, and that's what you see happening not only with Major League Baseball and the All-Star game, but also companies like Delta, Coca-Cola, and others. That is the direct connection between politics, consumers, and companies.
Yeah, I've been talking the last couple of days with my client over at the Gazueta School about kind of the impact of boycotts and this kind of social action on specific companies, and the consensus in a lot of places seems to be, this isn't necessarily going to cause someone to not buy Coke or not pick up a pile of pine chips at Home Depot, but it's forcing the corporations to make statements which put a lot of pressure on government and a lot of other larger organizations to do it. I mean, I think ideally in a perfect world, you'd like to be able to say that, a lot fewer people went to Home Depot, but I'm not sure that is quite exactly the goal or the end result. Obviously, you want to put pressure on the
even the threat of it, Mitch. The threat of it is damning, right? The threat of saying we're going to organize Black people not to buy Coca-Cola anymore. I mean, that's a real threat, especially if you start getting some heavy hitters on board with that threat, echoing that threat on national media, social media, and everywhere else is going to eventually have an impact. And then it becomes a public relations nightmare, because if you don't do something, if you're seen with a Coca-Cola, it's like, wait a minute, why are you drinking a Coca-Cola? You know the fight we're having with Coca-Cola right now. And I get it. I know some people completely disagree with that methodology. They say it shouldn't be connected, should not have a direct connection to politics. But the reality of it is this, Mitch. People that are adversely affected by this policy, they buy their products. And if those individuals say, you know what, we want companies that we support to support us when we feel disenfranchised by policy, well, I think that's a fair statement. It doesn't mean the companies have to do it. It's still a consumer market. They can make the decision to say, listen, guys, we did the best we could do. We're moving forward. This doesn't have anything to do with us, but that's not the tone of some of these companies right now.
Right. It's got to be what you do. And I think people have that choice to make a purchase decision with a company that connects with their values and what they believe in. And if they think that Coca-Cola or Delta or Home Depot or McDonald's as a company, their values don't conflate with their values, then you make that decision. Chick-fil-A, prime great example of that. A lot of back and forth and arguing about, well, do we separate this aspect of Chick-fil-A from the fact that, man, they got a great chicken sandwich? It's, where do you draw the line there, right?
Hey, man, it's tough, man. It's tough. I've been boycotting, and people are going to think I'm crazy. My favorite restaurant, I'm such a simple guy, Mitch, was Waffle House.
Yeah,
I love Waffle House, but the Waffle House, they had an incident where a security guy who was a off-duty cop did something to a customer. I didn't like the response of Waffle House. So I've decided never to eat at a Waffle House again. And that's been 3 years for me now.
I made a decision not to have Big Macs a long time ago, but I think it was more for the calorie count than anything else.
Yeah, man. I still enjoy a Big Mac every now and then. You can do that once a year, Mitch.
I can do it once a year? All right.
Once a year, man. It will not kill you. Twice?
Yeah. But to your point, if I say, I really don't like the way Waffle House corporate is reacting to this, but I know that this is a franchisor who is, independently owned and operated. He's got 30 people who work for him, and he's paying them a good wage. I might say, I'm gonna go to Waffle House just twice a month instead of 5 times a month. Maybe I balance it, right?
Some people do that. And Waffle House also, they hire individuals that sometimes cannot get jobs in other places. They do not have an anti-felony requirement to be hired at Waffle House, which is a positive. But I had to make my personal decision was that the other thing outweighed that. But I'm still not telling everybody don't go to Waffle House because I need my brothers and sisters who have made mistakes to be able to have a job.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. All right. So are there some topics that, not obviously they're the current topics, but are there some issues and topics that are kind of percolating in the back of your head? You think, I want to get more into this topic. And I just, the day-to-day breaking news stuff is just keeping me from really digging deeper into where I want to go with some of these more
that's a great question,
stories.
Mitch. Great question. The affordability of higher education. And I've been on this big. I even have some YouTube commentaries, has thousands of views. When Biden first got elected, and he basically said, hey, we can't do the, loan forgiveness thing. This is a congressional issue. Well, I disagree with that based on the law. The Higher Education Act of, I think it's 1965, but the Higher Education Act, either 1965 and 1975, it allows for the Secretary of Education to collect or not collect the debt. It gives that legal authority in the federal code. Well, now you see it happening. Americans with permanent disabilities, they just got their debt forgiven. Individuals that graduated from colleges that are considered to be deceitful or engaged in deceptive practices, their debt got forgiven 2 weeks ago. So we see that it can happen. And now the Biden administration has asked the Secretary of Education to look at if he has the legal authority to do this. But you don't really fix anything. And that's the issue here, Mitch. If you forgive the student loan debt, and listen, I'm for that, by the way. I'm not against it. I'm for it. But you put a Band-Aid and you never take care of the wound that caused it in the first place.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, I do. I think the last time you and I met was something we do a bit of work with Georgia Stand Up with Deborah Scott's group over there. And I think the issue of affordable housing in Atlanta and other cities is huge, especially as you get, things like the Beltline swallowing up property, and you got the Gulch project, which supposedly is going to have some affordable housing incorporated into the mix. But if there's no one watching, as I was saying, if there's no one watching, who knows what somebody's going to do, right?
But Mitch, it never works out the way they say it will, man. Come on, Mitch.
Right.
Never, whatever's on paper, the one guarantee is that won't be what it is. That's 100% every time when they say, we're going to do this, that's what will not happen. Yeah. And hopefully you can hold them accountable to get close to that. But it's we talk about affordable housing on my radio show a lot, and how the artificial industry injection increases the property taxes. So mama them can't even afford to stay where they've been staying for 50 years. It's out of control. Displacement is out of control. So yeah, I agree with you. That's a major one.
Yeah. And that, I don't know. We talk around that a lot, but I don't see that one necessarily getting any better. But I'll digress for a second and say, it's the people who watch, it's the journalists who watch city government and these kinds of projects that keep these kinds of things from happening. Because I don't have the expertise or the time to be that watchdog, but it's journalists like you and Dan Wisenhunt in Decatur, who on Decatur issue does an awesome job keeping Decatur and Avondale Estates and whatnot. And
that's why free press, as you know, Mitch, is fundamental to a functioning democracy.
Yeah,
you will never have a functioning democracy without a free press.
Well, we see what happens when in smaller towns and smaller markets where they lose that, or where content gets syndicated, or you get larger. Not that anything wrong with larger media companies, but where there's not a diversity of voices looking at it. Have you met Robin Kemp down in Clayton?
I have not met Robin.
Robin, she has a new online publication called the Clayton Crescent. Check it out. She's doing an awesome. She's doing an amazing job covering Clayton County, City of Forest Park, that area.
I will check out Robin. Absolutely.
All right. Okay, so now the lightning round, the fun part. So tell me what's fun and cool about Rashad that people might not know about. What do you do that people are like, wow, I didn't know he was like a professional fencer on the side.
Oh man,
or something like that.
I don't know if it's fun or cool, but it is something that a lot of people don't know. I play the piano by ear.
Okay.
And it's very therapeutic for me. But I've been able to play the piano by ear since I was about 11 years old. Yeah.
All right, I may have you before I air this, I might have you send me a little audio that I could incorporate in here.
I may do that.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Yeah. All right. So, last book that you've read.
The last book I read, A Promised Land by Barack Obama.
Okay. Favorite Atlanta restaurant.
Favorite Atlanta restaurant. Man, I'm a simple brother, man. This is it. The soul food restaurant. My big homie Butch. The founder, man. I love my soul food, man.
This is it? Okay. Where's that located? Where's that located?
So they have 11 locations. So they're all across the metro area.
Okay. I'm an adventurous food person, so I will drag the wife out and check that out. Okay. Favorite guilty pleasure.
My guilty pleasure is that I love vanilla bean ice cream and root beer.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I'm a root beer float king, and I know how to do them really well.
That's good. That's good. My father taught me how to do a really good egg cream. You gotta have the right combination of tonic water and milk, and
you got to know what you're doing for that, brother.
Right. Otherwise,
I'm not that advanced, man.
Otherwise, it's just chocolate milk, right?
That's right.
You don't do it right. All right. What's your favorite local getaway?
Honestly, man, my favorite local getaway is actually my home. My home sits on the lake. And it is peaceful. We have ducks, and that's my favorite local getaway, man. When I really just want to relax, that's where I go.
That's great. That's great. I like going to lakes and sitting by them. I unfortunately do not have one in my backyard. I got a bird bath, but that's
close enough. Mitch, is what you making, Mitch?
Yeah. I tell you, lately I've started. I got a newer model GoPro, and it's got a wire. I can stream. So I set up my GoPro by my bird feeder, and I'm streaming the feed to Facebook.
That's dope.
Which is sometimes incredibly boring because people will comment like, "Are there supposed to be birds here?"
Right.
Like, you gotta keep watching. You put the sound on, you hear the tweeting, and a little water feature, so you hear the water going. So you got to pay attention. Sometimes the bird comes in, sometimes you get a squirrel. All right, favorite non-work hobby.
Non-work hobby. That's a hard one, Mitch, because I work all the time. Non-work hobby. I can tell you something I do. I don't know if it's a hobby, but when I do have a little downtime, I watch sci-fi films. I'm a Trekkie. I'm a big science fiction guy, which a lot of people don't know. And that's my escapism. I escape in science fiction.
Have you watched the Orville?
I have not.
Orville's pretty funny. It's a funny version on kind of a funny take on Star Trek. I think they got canceled. They were on Fox for a couple of seasons.
Okay, no, I haven't seen that.
It's called.
I just right now I'm going through the Marvel stuff. Some people don't say that's hardcore sci-fi. It is sci-fi, and all of the Mandalorian, which is on Disney Plus. Yep. I'm giving out too much information here, Mitch. These aren't things you talk about when you're from Glenwood Road like myself. So I'm going to stop now, Mitch.
All right,
that's too much out of me.
All right, well, we are at 20 minutes. I said 20 minutes, so we're gonna stop here. Rashad Richey, thank you so much. A little snapshot. We could talk for a lot longer, but then my podcast would turn from an interesting thing to something that parents use to get their kids to fall asleep, but we don't want that.
That's hilarious. Mitch, I appreciate you, brother. Thank you for the invite, man.
Thanks, Rashad. Okay. And thanks for being here. And everyone join us next week for another edition of our 4 Questions Journalist Spotlight.